What's up, people? This is Elder Timchi bringing you another episode of On the Brain. And tonight I'm going to be doing a comic review on DC's Static Shock from the New 52 line. And, well, let me start off by saying, first off, when I was originally going to do this review a few months back, but then I was like, you know what, does it really matter? I mean, the book, unfortunately, had just been canceled not too long ago. And you know, at first I lost my drive until I bought the new DC animated movie Justice League Doom and watched the Blu-ray exclusive documentary on the original Static Shock creator, the late Dwayne McDuffie. And after watching that documentary, it was like inspiration. Like I have to do this review. You know what I'm saying? I can't just leave it undone. Plus, I'm a big fan. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that Static Shock was a comic growing up. Trust me, if I knew, I probably would have been collecting that like all the time. You know? But anyway, so Static Shock by Dwayne McDuffie was one of the original characters of the Milestone comic book line. It was a company, an independent company in the offices of DC Comics that specialized in comic book heroes, black superheroes, and one of the heroes was Static, and it basically told the story of Virgil Hawkins, a kid living in Dakota, trying to deal with being a teenager. He was really smart, had his family, they lived in a nice building and all that, and he was just dealing with going to school and just coping, just living the everyday life. He was he was smart, he was friendly, all that stuff, had good friends. Then one day, he gets caught up in something, and next thing you know, boom, tanker gets hit, and it leaks out this gas, this purple gas, and and from that point on, it was called the Big Bang, because now you got all these metahumans, and Static ends up becoming one of them, and it gives him the power of electricity. That I knew from the cartoon. I was not aware of the comics till much later. So, if I get some of my information wrong, someone tell me. But, alright, so in the new DC 52, as most of you probably already know, they rebooted all of the, most of the stories and most of the characters of the DC universe, gave them a fresh look, redid some of their origins and stuff like that. And this was to basically, and what they did with Static was to basically reintroduce him into the DC universe. So they basically continued. They rebooted / continued his story. He's already been Static for a while. He's still trying to deal with school and all that. But they moved him from Dakota to New York, and he's working with Star Labs. It was cool at first when I saw the artwork. Like if you see the difference between the classic artwork, the past artwork until now, I thought it was kind of silly because he looks like he's in a battery commercial or something, you know what I mean? And some people were like, just give it a chance, don't nitpick, because all it is a look. I mean, if you're gonna nitpick about a look, you might as well not even bother to read it. But the story itself was pretty cool. He's been Static for a while now. He's moved on to New York. His dad got a nice job in the city, and he's got a job working with Star Labs, and he's living with his sister, who you find out for some reason has a clone. I don't really know what's going on there. I'm going to keep on reading the current books that I have, maybe try and find that out. And he's dealing with going to a new school, being the new kid in town, and he finds out about this gang. Now, they're a bunch of, just a bunch of idiots with a lot of tech, and they're called the Slade Gang. And basically, everybody already knows about Static. Everybody's been aware of Static from the code, from the code and all that. And Slate Gang wants him dead because he's getting all up in their business. You know what I'm saying? Getting all these snide remarks and stuff like that. Has all this tech of his own, and he's pretty much taking them down. Sadly, most of the people in the gang are teenagers, and they got the higher ups, pulling the strings from the background, and then every book has a new enemy on the cover and has a subtitle like Static Shock and the such and such, or versus the so and so. And reading the first few books, I was like, man, I wish I could go back and read some of the classics. Like what he was dealing with in Dakota. I really wish I could go back and read some of the early '90s books from the Milestones days. Not to say that DC wasn't doing a good job, because they are. I mean, thanks to DC and thanks to the animated series, that's how I became a Static fan in the first place. So, so big ups to them. They're doing a great job with these animated films, and as far as the new 52 is concerned, I think they're doing an okay job. But after reading these, I was like, man, I really wish I could go back and check the old books out. If I could find them, definitely I'd review those too. But I'm kind of sad. It's kind of sad to me that they're canceling the book, because apparently it wasn't selling as well as they thought. I mean, of course, it's not gonna you don't expect it to outsell Justice League or Superman or Catwoman or blah blah blah. But I think he deserves his spot. The artwork, I'm gonna say again, the artwork is still pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? I had a little nitpick on the suit, but whatever. The story itself is dope. It speaks to me. You know what I'm saying? And if you enjoy Static from the 2000s on up, I suggest you pick up these comic books before they're gone, because this is a canceled book. But if you know of Static from back in the early '90s, this is basically just a continuation of that. So don't go in. So you wouldn't have to go into it assuming that you have to know everything that Static's gone through up to this point, because they don't really mention that all that much. It's basically a continuation. It's like what if this happened instead of this? What happens with him in New York? He's being reintroduced. So definitely check it out. If I had to give it a rating, I'd probably give it a 8 out of 10 for the writing. An 8 out of 10 for the writing, because they got a little something for the for the young. It's for the older teen crowd and up. You know what I'm saying? So big ups to DC, and rest in peace, Dwayne McDuffie. And with that, I am Elder Tenchi, and that was on the brain. Peace and love.